What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community, I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is David Nurse. As a former professional basketball player, David's ability to get into the zone and master his mindset led him to 2 Guinness World Records for shooting. In 2016, the Brooklyn Nets hired him as a coach to help players improve their three-point shooting, and it worked. They went from 28th in the league to 2nd after applying David's tactics. Since then, he has been transforming the way hundreds of NBA stars play on the court and examining how these lessons can apply to business. He's written 2 best-selling books, and he is here to share how we can master our mind through confidence, cooperation, service, and purpose.
If everything is taken away in your life, who are you? You have to take away the results, the accolades that we talked about earlier. That is not where confidence is based on, because that's going to rise and fall. Sometimes you'll be great, sometimes you won't. Confidence is in the self-awareness, is in understanding who you are first before anything else.
David, thanks for joining us.
It is an absolute pleasure, man. We go way back, so to be reconnected like this, amazing.
As we were preparing, going back and forth and getting today set up, we recognized that both of us kind of intersected years ago when we were at different stages of our career, and how much fun it is now to be here when things are really moving.
Can I just say how impactful that moment was to me? I remember it vividly. We were at UCLA. You came in, Steve Alford brought you in to literally tell these players how important everything that they post on social media is to their brand. And the way that you called people out, man, I will never forget that. And I also still have somewhere that paper that you gave where it was choose 3 words that you want to define you. And that made a big impact on me, man. You can live in the words that you want to define you. So know that that little interaction, you didn't even know it, but it had a big impact on me.
Wow. Thank you. That means a lot. And it's so fun to know that, because here you are, someone who's having such incredible impact on so many of the people that we get a chance to study all the time. You've spent so much time in the presence of hundreds of NBA players, and you've had the chance to work with 28 of those players who went on to become all-stars. One of the things that fascinates me is that you've developed a formula where you say that in the first 5 minutes of watching someone, you understand their potential to be an all-star. Can you share that with us and take us through that test?
Absolutely. So when a player walks on the court, number one, they have to have talent in their strength, meaning do they know where their talent is? Are they trying to be somebody they're not, or are they living into that God-given gift that they have? You have to have talent and know what that talent is. The second one is what I call insatiable drive. Does a player drag me to the gym, or do I drag that player to the gym? And it makes all the difference. I'm going to give you a story. An example here is when I was doing pre-draft for Wasserman Agency, we had a player come in who was not very well known. He was kind of under the radar guy. They were wondering, would he be a first round pick, a second round pick? He had talent. Probably know who he is now. Shea Alexander. He steps in the gym. First workout, we're just doing ball handling stuff. I mean, we're going hard for about 2 hours. And Shea is trying to beat everybody at every single drill, like literally going at as hard as he can, pounding the basketball. He was spent after 2 hours. Okay, that's been done before. After the workout, I go over to tell him, good job. He just says, when's the next one? When are we going tonight? What time? And I was like, oh man, I am absolutely in trouble here. Like my wife's going to hate me and I'm going to be worn out. So we go again that night, and that just continued and continued. He wanted to win every drill. He would hit me up, drag me to the gym, even when I wanted to be like, Shay, you know what? I need some rest here, man. I knew like he would be extremely talented. He will be an NBA All-Star at some point. He is probably in the top 5 discussion of top 5 point guards. He just signed a $206 million deal. So the insatiable drive. Do you drag that person to the gym? Are you motivated without somebody having to tell you, well, come on, get up, go, go. You know what? Here's this little carrot dangling in front of you. Are you driven inside? Domantas Sabonis is a player that I worked with during the COVID time. He came out here to LA, already an NBA All-Star. He'd already signed a fat deal. He comes out here to LA during COVID time when most people are just chilling, using COVID as an excuse. We find an LA gym that's like an old, beaten down warehouse. It was terrible. But he wanted to get in there every morning, 7 a.m., get his reps in. He wanted to get his work in. He wanted to get better. When everybody else was making excuses, this already NBA All-Star was getting more work in because he had the insatiable drive. Talent, insatiable drive. And the last piece is relentless consistency. Are you going to show up every single day, no matter how you feel, no matter the situations or circumstances that you're going through? Are you going to show up with that same type of mentality, with that same ability that you want to make positive change on your environment that you're in, or be the best teammate that you can possibly be? Relentless consistency, day after day after day. Because trust me, there's going to be a lot of times, and you know this through working with so many athletes and in our own lives, you don't want to do it. You want to make an excuse. Excuses are absolutely there. They're so easy to take, and nobody's going to blame you. You can think of one, and no one's going to be like, oh, well, you should have done it. You are the only one you can blame. So the all-star formula: talent, knowing what your talent is, insatiable drive, and relentless consistency.
I had an interaction once with a guy that many will recognize, Michael Jordan. We were talking about excuses, and he actually was so impactful. He said, a loss is not a failure until you make an excuse. Things happen. It's only a failure if you make an excuse and you have someone else to blame every time something like that happens. I want to get tactical for the good of our listeners. When they're looking to hire a new teammate, they're not going to have a gym and a 7 a.m. workout to kind of turn to. You've spoken to a lot of businesses. You get invited to be part of corporate events. What kinds of ways can those 3 elements show up for us in a more business-like environment?
Absolutely. So that is one of the most important things, to know who you're hiring and what they are going to bring to your organization. I put it side by side with the NBA All-Star and being the talent and the skill. Are you putting that person in a situation that they're able to succeed? The best point guards in the NBA don't just pass the ball. They pass the ball to players in the area where they're actually really good at, where they can score. As a leader, this person that you're potentially hiring, can you see them succeeding in the role that you're going to give them? Yes, there's going to be learning curves. Of course, that will happen. But do they have that very dangerous word that is thrown around all over the place, potential, to be that? You have to see that. Are you able to put them in their strength zone? If you set them up right, you can hire somebody, but if you don't coach them up correctly, then that's on you. Do they have that potential? The insatiable drive, are they there for the greater good of the company? Are they someone who is that Spurs player that you bring them in and no matter what, they're going to buy into culture? Or are they there for their own personal gain, their own ego? They have to literally be somebody who can die to themselves for the gain of the company, day after day. And you'll know this after speaking to them before you hire them, hopefully, from the people that they've been through before, doing your homework on them. You say, hey, do you have to give them a kick in the butt? Do you have to motivate them? Do you have to give them an award for being the best employee, or have to give them a bonus? Or do they just love it? Do they wake up fired up to come and push this company culture one step forward? And then the relentless consistency is more on the basis of what type of person are they? What is their character when they're at the office? You have 2 types of people. They're going to be energy givers or energy takers. Like our good friend John Gordon, the energy vampire suckers. Are you on the bus with them? Are they that person that brings everybody else down around them and is a complainer? who's always speaking in Chinese language? Are they someone who's going to come every day and empower others, encourage others? Are they going to be the Steve Nash type player who gives 237 high fives a game to encourage everybody around them and bring the best out of them? So when you're looking at somebody, do they, one, have the potential to do what's better for the company and the culture than they are for their personal self and their personal gain? And are they going to show up with positivity, energy, encouragement, and make the place more joyous just to be around?
I love it. I understand someone you may have put to the test was Mark Cuban. I've always been fascinated, had a chance to work with him a few times at Sports Illustrated. Tell me about giving shooting lessons to the Shark.
Yes, I'm coaching with the Brooklyn Nets and we're down in Dallas. I love being the first person on the floor, just kind of like my time to myself, the whole ambiance of the whole arena to myself. But this time there was another guy on the other side of the floor, and he's in these old raggedy shoes, not looking like a basketball player, bricking shots left and right, shooting. I have to walk by his side to get to my side. I'm walking by, he turns to me and just makes an excuse, says, "The older you get, the legs go." Being a shooting coach, I know that's not true. I can't let something like that slide. I can't let this guy get away with this. No way. I got to call him out.
Right.
So I say, it's not all about the legs. It's how you generate the power, how you get the momentum in the shot. I could tell he was interested. He was intrigued just by the look in his eyes. Now, I didn't want to give a random shooting lesson to a stranger and spend 15, 20 minutes of my time. Shark Tank was not what it is today yet. It was just when it was kind of coming out, getting hot. So I didn't know who this guy was. So I give him a shooting lesson only because a friend 3 weeks prior had challenged me to live in the service mode, meaning if I had this gift and I could use it to help somebody, I would. My gift was teaching people how to shoot. All right, I'll show him a few things and I give him some tips. He's getting more range on his shot. He's making more shots. He's excited. He's pumped up. Now, the real players got to come out and warm up for the game. So we have to get off the court. And I just say, hey, if you want more drills, I'm more than happy to send some over to you. I'll email them to you. Yeah. Please, please, please. Pulls out his business card. I take it, just put it in my pocket, and I get on my way so I can get 5 minutes of quiet time before the game. And I'm sitting there before tip-off behind the bench, and I'm just curious, who was this guy I was just helping? I pull out the business card out of my pocket, and it reads, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I just been helping Mark Cuban harness his inner power for something he was passionate about because I was living in the service mode. Had I just walked past him and not thought like, well, this guy's not on my schedule. Does this fit into my color coordinated Google Calendar? No, I'm going to move on. This is my time. I would have never made that connection. I emailed Mark the next day. You know how long it took for him to get back to me? Literally 2 minutes, maybe less. I was thinking, well, doesn't this guy have like 300 companies to run? But it just goes to show you that breakthroughs in your life will only occur if you're not so concerned about yourself and whatever is happening to you, but you're living in the service mode. Now, it's not going to always happen. Everybody that you serve is not going to be Mark Cuban, but everybody has a story, and the impact that living in the service mode can have on someone can literally be life-changing to them.
It's not just living in the service mode, it's understanding what your gift is to give others. You knew your gift was to do the things that are necessary to make that shot more likely than not to go in. Knowing that that's what he needed, that's what you offered. One of the things that you and I both know from a lifetime of work around these high performers is the importance of routine and repetition. Many people think about these guys and their rock star lifestyles and all these other things, but the truly best of them have a crazy routine, and there is nothing worse than upsetting that routine. Can you talk to us about how you help others develop their routine?
Great question. So, a player that I've worked with for a long time, since his UCLA college days, is Norm Powell, second round draft pick. And he was for years in and out of the lineup. Sometimes he plays, sometimes he wouldn't. You weren't really sure if the guy was going to stick in the league, to be honest. And he was the greatest guy to be around when he scored a lot of points. It's awesome. But when he had a bad game, you don't want to be anywhere near him. And the funny thing is, that's a lot of professional athletes because he was basing who he was on his results and just thinking results, points per game, shooting percentage. Norm is in his contract year, and we're like, got to try something different. It's just not working. So me and Norm figured out what his two best shots were. His two best shots were catch and shoot threes and transition attacking the hoop. Those were his two best shots, his highest percentage shots. So all we did was count how many times he attempted those shots, how many times he got to those shots. I was like, Norm, I don't care if you miss every single one of them. All we're going to do is get to those two shots. This is what's called the system. We can't just go around and do random things. What are you really, really good at? What's your gift? Are you a public speaker? You're probably not spending all your times doing emails. Like, you're focusing on your speaking. What are your best two shots? Those for Norm with a catch and shoot threes in transition. So he went on a streak of 30 games before the world shut down in 2020.
Right.
That's all he attempted. All he attempted. And the player of the week in the Western Conference right before the world shut down was LeBron James. We've all heard of LeBron James. We know who that is. The Eastern Conference player of the week was Norm Powell.
Yeah.
So instead of working on in practice, man, I'm going to do a step back jumper because that looks cool, or a double between the legs fadeaway because that looks cool. No, he made sure his two best shots that he was better than anybody else on them. That is the process. You have your system and your process. Your system is what you do great, what your gift is. Your process is your daily habits around focusing on that system. And if you can take a 1% step daily where you know that you are improving, that you're pouring into what that system is, 365 to the power of 1 is 1. 365 to the power of 1.01, 1%, it's like 37 point something, something, something. Just how impactful that 1% pouring into your process daily. So Norm becomes the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. After the season, he signs a $90 million deal. 3 years, $90 million. Because he was focusing on his process. System plus process equals results. If you focus on the results, you will never get the results. But if you focus on your system and your daily process, you will achieve your results. And you got to figure out what that is. What is your bucket you're going to pour into? And then what are the daily habits? There's a lot. It's so easy to find success habits. Literally look it up online. What are all the successful billionaires doing? And it's right there. Implement those into your day, understanding that the results will come, probably not as soon as you want them to come, but it's better if they don't come soon because you'll burn out. You haven't built the roots to withstand the foundation of it. And the longer that they take, the more you'll appreciate it, the more you'll be set up for long-term success.
Now, I love that Norm story. You can look at the numbers and the statistics, and they'll tell you for Norm where he's best. But for most of us, we kind of live in a world in which those measurement tools don't really fully exist. If you're working with a business leader, how are you helping them identify their two best shots?
If you could move the needle in your company, in your business, and all you were doing was two things daily, you take away everything else. You view yourself as a Formula One race car driver. You do one, maybe two things, great. You're not going to change the tires. You're not going to put the lug nuts. You're not going to fill the tank with gas. What are your two things that you do better than anybody else? That becomes the things that you focus on. The rest of it, you can delegate it. Sure, you want to be in control as a business leader. All we want to do is control. Nobody can do it better than we can. Yeah, we know that. But you cannot scale if it's just you. Figure out the areas you do not want to pour your time into, because pouring the time into emails, into whatever that might be, is not moving the needle. And it's actually a detriment to the rest of the people working for you because you're spending time in someplace other than what's going to actually push the company forward.
Yeah.
Just two buckets. And if you can pour all your time into that, that's what you're going to focus on. The rest of the stuff, hire somebody, delegate it. Trust me, you'll feel like you have so much more time too. It's amazing.
I love it. Your uncle, Nick, is the head coach of the Raptors, the Toronto Raptors. And in 2019, they defeated Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors to win the first championship in that franchise's history. You were there in the locker room after the game, and I know you had an experience there that I want to have you share because of what you learned and what we can learn from that experience.
I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast. This is a great question. As the Raptors are celebrating winning their championship, Man, it's awesome. Like champagne. You even seen Kawhi Leonard smile and talk.
No, Kawhi Leonard smiled.
Oh yeah, man, he was going crazy, which is legendary in itself. You got Bill Russell in there, and it's an ongoing celebration for probably 2.5, 3 hours. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody walking with their wife and a stroller with a baby in the stroller in Golden State Warrior sweats. It's Steph Curry. Steph Curry had waited after the game where he just basically lost out on a dynasty. I think they were about to three-peat, if I'm not mistaken, like a dynasty, and they lost the championship that night in that game. And Steph waits not just to come and congratulate him, but he waits for the Raptors to have their celebration so he doesn't impede on it and then comes and congratulates. And when I saw that, like I knew he was a great guy, but like that is the real deal. That is what competition is about, where you're going to compete your butt off and you want to defeat everybody that you play. But in that same breath, hey, I'm going to congratulate the other team. Seeing that the best of the best, when they lose, they don't beat themselves up about it. They don't beat themselves up. They congratulate the other side. If I'm going to lose out and somebody has a better selling book or someone's getting more talks to me, I'm going to celebrate them
Right.
because it means that the industry that I'm in is a really good industry. But two, like if I'm looking at competing against people, like I'm never going to really reach my full potential because it's not necessarily competing against, it's more competing with, which ends up completing us. The people that are in my space, I'd rather compete with you than just being like, oh, I gotta beat Don, I gotta beat his podcast ratings, or John, or Ed, or Talks. Like compete with. Now I know in the NBA you can't necessarily compete with, but Steph is using that as more fuel to the fire, and also understanding that it's bigger than just the game. It's bigger than just your bottom line that you're making. It's bigger than just your bank account. The absolute being a great human being trumps all.
I love it. Celebrating others, that's so valuable, and it's a lost art.
Yeah.
I love it. Your book Breakthrough, sitting right there over your shoulder, takes on 3 subjects. I wanna go through them with you so that our listeners can grow, and I know you'd rather charge them 24.95 to get these lessons, but we're gonna abbreviate it and still encourage them to go buy it. First, you talk about the importance of reaching your potential. Second, you talk about pushing through limitations, and third, achieving things you didn't know were possible.
Yeah.
Walk us through what David Nurse offers in this area.
I love the word potential because it is the biggest lie that we tell ourselves. Potential. I've heard it so many times with NBA players coming out of college. They've got the potential to be an all-star. And I've run out within 2, 3 years. Potential literally means nothing. It means whatever we decide it to mean. A lot of us think, well, this is what somebody outside says that I can be, or I can only make $100,000. That's what I have in my mind. Well, if you have that bubble, that potential that you can only make a certain amount of money, that's all you're going to make because you're going to live within that potential. A lot of us let outside voices, whether it's a voice when you were growing up, or a teacher, a parent that said you can only be X, and that becomes our potential. So as you see, it sounds silly to let other people decide what we are going to be or even hold ourselves back. We are our biggest defenders at the end of the day. That success, that's for Don, that's for this person or that person. No, instead of looking at the, oh, why me? You look at it as, why not me? Why not me? Somebody has to do that. Potential is just whatever you make it to be, really. And that's where the bursting through the limitations part comes. And limitations is fear. And our greatest fear, if we want to sum it all up, it's not dying, it's not public speaking. Our greatest fear is the unknown. We fear because we don't know. If I was to tell you the day that you die, you're probably going to be okay with it. You're going to probably go to Hawaii and enjoy your life because you know how many days you have. But you fear death because you fear the unknown.
Right.
This really hit me when I was playing down in Australia. I went great white cage diving.
That's awesome.
Oh, man, it's great. They take you 5 hours off the coast of Australia, probably because if you get eaten, then no one will know you actually died.
Right.
But they put you down in this cage, massive, man. They're like 12 feet long, rows and rows and rows of teeth. And when you look them in the eye, I mean, yeah, it's intimidating. And if you put your arm out there, they'll probably eat it for lunch. But the most fearful time is when you're looking around the ocean and you don't see anything. You don't know when that cage is going to rattle, when that shark is going to strike, because that is the fear of the unknown. Limitations are the fear of the unknown. So you don't have to live in potential. And I'd like to tell the story too about Steph Curry. If you've never looked up his NBA scouting report coming out of college, look it up. Too slow, too small, can't finish around the hoop. He might, if lucky, be a fringe starter in the NBA. Are you kidding me? If Steph would have looked at that and been like, you know what, that scout's been doing this for years. He probably knows better than I do. That's who I'm going to be. He would have never transcended the NBA. I hope that scout is literally fired living in his mom's basement because that's ridiculous. We can't put potential on people.
It is funny how often we let the vision others have for us define us.
Totally.
It's interesting, some of the very people we've talked about already today, and the way they use that chip on their shoulder. That is one of the more fascinating aspects of any high performance discussion. How do the best ones use the moment when the rest of us shrug our shoulders and say, okay, that's what it's going to be? For the rest of them, it's, hey, I don't see the respect in your eyes
Yeah.
that I should command given who I am. I'm going to get that respect from you before this is over. Even in the case of Michael Jordan, if that's often manufactured.
Yeah, create your own. Yeah. I love that story. But how cool is that?
Yeah.
He creates his own competition. Like, well, the competition around me is not good enough, so I'm going to up the game.
Right. And I'm just going to do it in my mind. Wherever it comes from, the best ones are always looking for something that makes them want to push themselves a little further.
Yeah.
Confidence is such an important part of your teaching model. Confidence plus cooperation plus service plus purpose equals breakthrough. You're working with these world class performers, but often the fine line between good and great is that ability to develop their confidence, their belief in themselves. Talk to me about how you work and how can we work to develop that confidence in ourselves?
Great point. And the number one thing that top athletes that I've worked with struggle with is confidence. Hard to believe that, wow, the best players in the NBA struggle with self confidence. Yeah. And that's also refreshing to hear that. I mean, we do, they do, we all do. At the core, you have to take away the results, the accolades that we talked about earlier. That is not where confidence is based on because that's going to rise and fall. Sometimes you'll be great, sometimes you won't. You can't have your confidence in something that's like a roller coaster. Confidence is in the self awareness, is in understanding who you are first before anything else. It's not a, it starts with why. I know that's made sexy by Simon Sinek, but everything starts with who. Who are you? If everything is taken away in your life, are you okay? Do you stand for more than it says on your business card? Or do you find all your confidence in, well, I'm the CEO. That's my identity. That's who I am. If that's where you find your confidence, that's going to go away sometime and you're going to be miserable. Who are you? Do you find your confidence in the way that you treat others, in the person that you are, in the husband, in the wife, in the father, in the mother that you are? Like, where does your core self awareness come from? One of my closest friends is Jeremy Lin, and he went through a time during 2012. It was called Lin's Sanity. Crazy, nutty time. He comes out of complete obscurity, 3 days away from getting cut, sleeping on his teammate's couch, and he just goes off. He prepared for the opportunity. Now, that just wasn't just luck. He prepared his butt off, and he goes for 30-point games, game winners. He's on top of the world number one trending thing, literally Twitter, GQ, Time Magazine. Think about that in your life. If you wake up tomorrow and you have 5 million followers and everybody's talking about you, you're the number one trending thing, you think it would feel really good, right? But instead of living in the appreciation for that moment and being like, okay with who he was, no matter what the results said, he was living in the what ifs. What if I don't keep this up? What will people think of me? What if I don't keep going at this same insanity pace? And it eats at you. It eats at you. If you look at it, well, what if I don't outperform Q1? What if I don't get to this number? What if I don't get one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've seen is Jeremy understanding that he stands for so much more than just results on the basketball court or being an NBA basketball player. He's over in China playing. He's not in the NBA right now, but he's so comfortable in who he is because he knows he stands for his faith in Jesus. He stands for his Taiwanese people. And I like to joke that he stands for thinking he's a gourmet Michelin star chef in the kitchen, which is highly debatable, but he thinks he is. Ask yourself the question, if everything's taken away, who are you? Not what do you do, but who are you? And that's where the core of your self-awareness confidence comes from. And then I have 7 steps of unshakable confidence tools that I have players or people that I work with implement to be able to basically have their own confidence menu that they can come back to at any time.
And these are tools that if you answer these questions or you go through that process, it becomes something that you can return to help remind you of why you need to believe in you. I've actually gone through it and studied it. I would highly recommend it. I think it's an enormously powerful exercise. Really, really awesome. I know you grew up in a small town of Pella, Iowa, and then you moved to Kearney, Missouri, where you're a pretty good player on a high school basketball team. the
Yep.
Bulldogs. And I know that your mom played a big role in your constant practice.
hmm
Tell me about having the gift of someone who would say, I'm here to pour into you.
Man, I love this. I've never talked about this on a podcast. The Bulldogs, the Bulldogs of Kearney, Missouri. Man, so just growing up like in Iowa too, and it's freezing cold weather, and all I wanted to do was play in the NBA. My mom probably should have said, David, well, you're not that tall, and really like your athleticism is not something that's very, very good. Like maybe play tennis or golf, something like that. But she knew how much I loved it, so she was going to support me. My mom would rebound for me after school every day until her fingers would get cracks in them and they'd start bleeding, but she wouldn't say a thing. She'd keep rebounding. And I was probably too mean too. Like if she would say anything, I'd tell my mom to be quiet. Like, you don't know anything about basketball. She was just there to serve. She was just there to pour into me. She wasn't there to offer advice. And my mom was one of those people too, Don, where you go to these basketball camps and your mom's the only one sitting there watching the whole basketball camp and you're embarrassed. You're like, Mom, what the heck are you doing here? But she would come to everyone. My dad would come to every college basketball game I was at, even if it was across the country. He'd fit it into his schedule to fly out there. He never said anything after a game. He never was like, "Oh, son, why didn't you do this?" He just played the role of a dad. You know how important that is? Like I tell coaches that have sons who are high level basketball players, hence why I was met you at UCLA. It's not their role to play the coach. Your son, your kid does not want that. If you just pour into them, if you just serve, and if you just support and encourage and not feel like you have to coach your kid in every situation and not feel like you have to live vicariously through your kid, then that's when your kid, your son, your daughter will respect you so much more and will impact and value from it so much more. And my mom, she would also always say inspirational quotes too, and you usually tune them out in one ear, out the other ear. And one of the biggest game changers for me in my life, after I'd been cut from an overseas team that was a Will Ferrell joke of a league basketball team, I'm living on my parents' recliner chair and I'm feeling bad for myself. She was doing dishes and she said, David, when one door closes, four open in an entire beachfront patio overlooking the ocean. It hit me. Like I thought it was one door, one door. I've never heard this before, but it made so much sense. Everything I'd poured into my life of playing in the NBA was not for me, but it's for me to be able to learn how to teach other people with more God given ability, 7 foot height, and athleticism. What we think is sometimes is like our gift, like, oh, I poured so much into this, but it's all taken away from me. My whole life is over. I have to start over. No, you don't. That just taught you for something even better to come. Life is literally like a long hallway. I like to use this analogy where you're just walking down the hallway and there's doors on each side. You'll go into a door, you'll experience something, you'll learn from something, and then you'll take another few steps down the hallway into the next door. And it's a never ending hallway, but you're continually learning. You're not losing anything. You're learning for what's going to lead you to the next, even bigger and better and greater thing. And I never really knew how much this meant till a lot longer down the road. So if you're a parent and you're doing these things, understand your kid will absolutely appreciate that. I do tell them that a lot. I know I can always probably say it more, but I heard it on another podcast. Somebody was writing gratitude letters to their parents. So I just wrote out a whole letter and I put down like all these little memories from childhood of how much it meant to me, like just little moments that stick out to me, and wrote one to my mom and wrote one to my dad and just sent it to them. But yeah, I probably don't say it enough. I don't think we can ever say it enough, but I know that they know how appreciative I am.
Gosh, I'd love to encourage our listeners to do the same. That is such a great idea. Just write letters.
Yeah.
Coach Wooden used to write letters to his wife after she passed, and
Oh,
he talked all the time about how he wished he had said some of those things to her when she was alive. So the beauty of you writing that letter, David, is that your parents will read it, and that's so much more powerful. And what a great, great lesson. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
So we covered high school, but you went on to play basketball at Kansas City Community College and then at Western Illinois. But then you become our first ever on this podcast, first ever two-time Guinness World Record holder. We had a ping pong player the other day, but we've never had a two-time Guinness World Record holder.
Okay. You're going to love this story, man. You're going to love the story. And then you're going to be like, well, what?
Okay.
I wanted in the NBA, so I knew I had to pick my separator. Now I couldn't just say, "Hey, bring me on, I'll outwork everybody." Everybody says that. I wanted to make the NBA want me instead of look desperate to try to want the NBA. So I decided I was going to be the best shooting coach. Now, I was doing shooting basketball camps and they were going well, they were growing. I was like, but I need a spark. Like, I need to show everybody that I can shoot it and they should come to me to learn at these basketball camps. So I got in the gym with a friend who was a great basketball player, great passer, great rebounder. And we just looked up what the world record on YouTube was for made threes in a minute. It was 19. Yeah, I can beat 19. So he throws unbelievable passes, hardly ever lets it even hit the ground. I get 20 and we call it a Guinness World Record. ESPN picks it up. So it catches all this momentum. It blows up, all that kind of stuff. And I did the same thing for another one as well. So I have two of them. Then I get an email about a year later from Guinness that said, your records are not certified by Guinness. Nobody was there from Guinness to see these records. Therefore, they are not officially Guinness records. And you know what? That's all I needed to hear. They gave me the validation of coming after me and saying it wasn't a Guinness World Record, so I knew they were watching.
That's it.
Hey, maybe it's called a Guinness, maybe it's called a YouTube World Record. You create your own stories, basically.
Create your own international bestseller. I love it. So many people refer to their corporate organizations as teams. It's actually one of those words I think it's improperly used more often than not. Often it's just a collection of individual contributors who happen to have the same business card. You've been around great teams. You've experienced what it means to pull a collection of talent together to do something special. Can you give us a couple of things that you would advise someone that maybe isn't new into leadership? How do they build that team?
Oh, I love this question so much. So I got to spend time with the Warriors. Ron Adams, their assistant coach, very good friend of mine, mentor to me in 2015, 2016, before they came the big time dynasty Warriors. Now, they were just coming off a championship, so they kind of started that. People were talking about him shooting all these threes, this beautiful brand of basketball, great passes, artistic. And I'm going up there to the practices in the preseason, and I'm thinking, he's behind the back, three-point shooting drills, take them back to my players and look really cool. So I'm sitting there at the start of practice, and it blows my mind what I see. For the first hour of every single practice, they're working on footwork, form shooting, passing, ball handling, the boring basics, the fundamentals. These great players like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, NBA championships are working on the fundamentals for the first hour of every practice. Even cooler than that, too, is they had this banner that said joy. That was Steve Kerr's mantra, joy. Everybody came to practice to compete with joy. Joy going through the fundamentals, joy going through the boring basics. And what's cool in our own lives is we can take that away is these fundamentals, 80% of our days are habitual, meaning 80% of your day is going to be the same thing. A lot of people don't like to do those boring basics. But if you embrace the things that other people don't like to do, you will always be successful. There's a little secret for you. Embrace what others don't like to do. Focus on the fundamentals first. That's what's going to build the core. The Golden State Warriors, the best team in NBA history, record-wise, and how they finished that year that I was watching them, they finished with the best record in NBA history. This ball over my shoulder is a ball from the NBA championship Golden State Warriors from that year, actually. Fundamentals. I mean, Kobe talks about it. There's so many great stories about Kobe and his footwork for hours and hours.
For those that are listening in, they want a little bit more of David Nurse. Where do they go to get it?
They can go to my website, davidnurse.com, and I do a breakthrough coaching group, which is a intensive month-to-month coaching where people that want success principles will come on to learn stuff like this and more, to be able to pour into themselves to create their own success blueprint and map. That's at davidnurse.com. My podcast, which will have you on, The Art of. Social media handle is David Nurse NBA, or you can come out to Los Angeles and either hang out at the beach or hang out in traffic. Your choice.
Or go through one of the 4 doors onto the beach. That's awesome. I like it. David, it's an honor to have been friends for a while, to have continued to follow and learn from you. But today, it's an honor to have you teaching us how to each be greater corporate competitors.
Don, I appreciate it, man. And I just got to let people know, like, your greatness is through like your preparation. You're already at the top of the top, but yet you're putting in long time to study me. Like, you know how flattering that is, man, to have the best of the best. And it's so inspirational. You're continuing to learn and grow and push yourself. So thank you very much for this time, brother.
I had to go out and actually work on my jump shot for a few minutes before I came back in to record this outro because I was so filled with energy listening to David. What great content. If you want to be an all-star, you want to be best in class, play to your strengths, understand what your talent is, and play to it. Have an insatiable drive. That's Shea Alexander's story, and that willingness to be the one that drags other people into the gym, don't have others drag you. And then that relentless consistency, doing it, doing it, doing it. Just do the things that others don't want to do, but to do them constantly and to do them well. What a great all-star model, something I can absolutely learn from. He talked about the importance of living in the service mode. Take your gift and be willing to identify it, know it, and then offer it to others. What amazing things might happen your way. You probably won't encounter Mark Cuban, but pretty good stuff nonetheless. And then I loved the story he told about Steph Curry and coming in to celebrate with the Toronto Raptors, how much that meant to have the world's best or among the world's best walk in, wait for you to enjoy your moment, and then to say thank you and congratulations. What a gift to be able to go give someone else your congratulations, not your upset nature that things didn't quite go your way. But finally, the importance of process, the importance of having a regular routine to be able to do things well. 80% of our days are habitual. So be intentional about what you're going to take and do well in the day. Do what you do world class, and you too can become an all-star. Let's go out today and become corporate competitors. Before we end the episode, I want to share another podcast I think you would enjoy called the Leadership Podcast. I was recently a guest on their 299th episode, and hosts Jan and Jim are incredible interviewers. They have a combined background in business, academia, and the military. So I love the variety of guests they've hosted, including Simon Sinek, Margaret Heffernan, and Kwame Christian. The Leadership Podcast stays true to its mission. We study leaders. So I encourage you to check out their show. I put a link to my episode in our show notes. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir. How are
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.